Hello, my friends. I always love spending this time with you. And I wanted to talk about two things that I feel really kill hope and optimism and can affect us at any time during the year, but seems to be very much in strong contrast during times of the holiday where there's this feeling that there always has to be perfection and brightness and all this unnecessary pressure that we tend to plague ourselves with. And the first one is apathy. And apathy is, as you know, when you just feel numb. You know, you don't care. You don't care about anything or anybody. At times, depending how profoundly the apathy affects you, you may not even care about yourself. And there's depression that's attached to it. So what causes this? You know, what causes apathy? And the first one I would have to say is just exhaustion. You know, when you are just so tired, and it's not just tiredness of the body, which can happen from anymore, sadly, in this economy for most people. You know, there is the need to work at least 2 jobs to make ends meet. Or if not, there's that plus, you know, trying to maintain relationships or family, or if you're a solopreneur, an entrepreneur, you know, so much pressure all over where as much as there's so much that needs to get done, there's only so much for you to go around. And if you don't eat well, if you're not hydrating, if you're not sleeping well, and not just things of the body, but if you're not nourishing and replenishing your spirit, there is a point of such profound tiredness and fatigue that you really have no energy left for anything. And it's not that you don't care, but there's part of you that's just beyond that idea of caring because you have nothing left to give. Another thing that can create apathy is boredom. You know, when you're so bored, every day is like another day. You feel like there are no challenges left for you. Or even worse, you can feel that there's a lot of doing, but I call it like marching in place, a lot of moving around, but not getting anywhere, so that as much as you try, you can see that you're going nowhere. You can see where things are going to end. And that extreme boredom of not being challenged, of having no need for enthusiasm because there is nothing exciting to look forward to, can be another profound form of apathy and that causes you to get stuck in ruts. And it's hard. It's funny. I can't tell you the number of people that I've helped to motivate and to mentor to get beyond ruts, because it's weird as human beings. We might be unhappy, but we get comfortable in our discomfort, so we get stuck even though we're not happy. It's the devil we know, I guess. I don't know. It's the contrary thing of human nature. Another thing with apathy is just that feeling of being overwhelmed. You know, whenever strong emotions, it could be grief, you know, any shock at all of sudden loss or something that you feel that is a trauma to you. And remember to be kind, because what is traumatic to one person may not be to another one. But that sense of such profound trauma and shock can create a numbness. And this is a natural defense of the spirit and of the mind. It's very akin to when somebody suffers something that's so immense beyond belief, shock or trauma, that the mind will choose to block off that memory. Apathy can be twin to that, where similar to the physical body, I don't know if any of you have ever had the misfortune of breaking bones. I have. And the body's defense initially is to have you feel nothing, to numb the area. And the idea was to give you enough adrenaline and to kill the pain to allow for you to escape danger. This type of apathy is the spiritual and psychological equivalent. But much like you would not want a body part to remain numb and broken, that's unhealthy. The same thing would be with your mind and your spirit. So these are, I figure, 3 major things with apathy. And again, I'll be talking a little bit later on in this video how to be able to move through that apathy, and I've helped many people through that. But that's the one, I think, of the major killers of hope and that of optimism. The other one that I feel that is very, very strong is one of just feeling very jaded, just very cynical, very jaded. It's just not worth it. So you can feel, you choose not to feel because it's just, you don't want to be hurt again. And, the major causes for that is, I would mention to you, is that if you've ever been betrayed, if you've ever had such a firm belief, regardless of whether your beliefs were founded realistically or not, a certain belief, a trust, and that was so broken that it broke something inside of you, that you can just, unfortunately, the problem with the cynicism on becoming jaded is that whomever that person or that individual was that hurt you, then this overreaction happens to protect yourself, that any person or any event that is similar to the originals that wounded you, then everybody gets tarred with the same brush. So if you've ever had your heart broken in love, then that type of partner or potential partner you can never trust again, or at work where you had a certain type of boss or a certain situation. And it's very, very common. But what happens is that you are not living in the present. Everything is with these thick goggles of the past, is what happens with being jaded. The other thing, too, that will happen with the sense of cynicism is if you have found in your past that you felt unseen, unheard, that your dreams were constantly crushed, and to such a degree that it just takes it out of you to fight or to try anymore. But the worst part is, unlike apathy, where it would just be there, the numbing, which is bad enough, is this latent anger that seems to be with this. And so it's not even so much that you become very disbelieving in yourself or being able to manifest your dreams, but it can extend to the point that anyone else who reaches for something similar that you used to be excited about, you try to bring them down, or you just scoff at them. So accidentally becoming that which you despise is with that. And I think the third poison that comes from this is when you find that you feel, again, as I said, unseen, again, or betrayed, or any of this, is that there's a bitterness that comes from all of this. And this bitterness literally does take the sweetness out of life. And it becomes this toxic armor, I don't know what else to call it, that sometimes people will use to protect themselves with. And it's very sad, because then life becomes this place of sour darkness in this regard. And again, with this in mind, it's understandable how any of us can reach that point of apathy, or any of us can reach places where we become very cynical and jaded, but you don't want to stay there. So the steps to moving through these are, I'm going to say, these sound simple, and they are. However, I will say this, the longer that any of you have stayed in a state of apathy or of being jaded about someone or something, the longer and harder it is to move through it. So it reminds me very much of when you work on your physical body. If you work out and say it said that if you let yourself go, say if you worked out for a year and then you took off for 3 months, it takes the body a month to remember. So it won't take a whole year, but the longer the time that you have worked on healing these aspects of apathy and cynicism, then anticipate that it could potentially take longer to recover from this. Because for me as a shaman, these are wounds of the spirit and of the mind. And it will require a spiritual PT, just like you would have physical PT for somebody who has a physical injury. So the first one I already mentioned to you is rest. Rest. It is so underrated. And especially in this technological age where everything and everyone is accessible 24/7, And you can edit everything to look like it's high energy at all times, which of course is absolutely not true. So check in with yourselves, honor your rhythms. If you find that your mind doesn't shut down, or if you can't sleep properly or what have you, then go ahead, research and engage in those practices or with practitioners that can help for you to relax the mind, whether it be meditations, exercise, and what have you. If you can't sleep well, there could be different things that are going on that are inhibiting you from being able to feel well. And remember, I know it's going to sound a little bit contradictory, rest is not only disengaging from things, because again, if that's the case, then apathy would be the cure to everything, right? Which we know it's not, hence this video. But the whole point of resting is that you're recovering, you are rejuvenating, you get the idea. So rest is, yes, allowing yourself to recharge, but it's exactly that, to disengage from what is tiring you out and adding those elements to recharge, to recover energy, to recover centeredness. That is rest. So if you find that you're trying to rest your body, but your mind is doing gymnastics, you're going to end up in the same place. You're going to end up being burned out, and vice versa. Your body's running, even though your mind is calm, at some point your body's going to break down. So rest is vital. Rest is vital, and I cannot tell you that it must be. I usually never use the word must. It must be part of your daily regimen of self-care. It shows self-respect. It shows self-love, and it allows for you to be able to see the world much better. Because when you are tired and become apathetic and or jaded, I like to say that your problems might be the size of the little, Geico gecko, but when you look in your rearview mirror of life of tiredness, it can look as big as the T-Rex from Jurassic Park hunting you down, when that's not really the case. The second part is talking. And I know there are some of you that are very introverted, and if you don't like sharing your feelings, I respect that. I'm not saying that you necessarily have to go to a public square. Sometimes that talk can be as simple as doing a journal. Or if you're like me, where by the time I write, it's too slow. I might record things. And yes, you get adjusted to hearing your own voice, but just letting it out in some way, writing it down, speaking it out. If you feel comfortable enough, you have those who truly love you, and true family, true friends, that can listen to you. Letting it out is better than letting it rot from within. And if that you find that the issues and things are too complicated, or even then you're very sensitive, maybe it's too private for even this, then go to those people who are professionals, the counselors, spiritual counselors, therapists, what have you. But you need to process it in some way, because if you do everything else, but you have this festering inside of you, I promise you're going to do two things you don't want. One, it's going to get worse. And two, because of the laws of karma, you're going to keep on calling back to those people and things that will be reenacting the same event until you resolve it. I actually did another video talking about why we have things revisiting us. And actually, you can turn that energy to have good things revisiting you. So I will try to reference that below. The other thing that I would say to you as well is doing those things, as I mentioned to you previously, that really nourish you, that lift your spirits. It's so important. And each of us is different. Each of us is different. If you're introverted, it could just be letting the world go away for a little bit and being in your own space with what you love. Perfect. If you're like me, I get charged up. I love being around people and events. I get really excited, you can tell. But even then, I can hit my saturation point. And I will politely tell everybody, you know what, I just need to go sit in my corner for a little while. I'll be back. But learning to listen to yourself, listen to your body, listen to your own spirit, doing those things that, in addition to the resting, that lift you up, that help to bring things that are meaningful and more positive. And I would like to add maybe a touch of curiosity in your life in this way. And another thing that I would add to that, in speaking to the apathy and to the being jaded, is that typically there are areas that I have found for both, with working with so many people, where that sense of unfinished business and that need to, there could be other people involved. That inevitably there's some point that there is still anger with the self or resentment with the self in some way. So that need to forgive yourself, allow yourself for being human, learn from things, create a different protection than numbing yourself, create a different protection than the armor of bitterness in this regard, and switch it up, allow yourself to feel and to recover in this way. So what you're going to find is, if you find those 3 steps that are useful, again, just rest, truly rest, and with that recharging. And then, as I said to you before, this idea of really being able to talk things out, let it out, don't let it fester. And then finally, surrounding yourself with those things that lift you up, that are positive, begin to give you that momentum. And if you find that there are any remnants of emotions that were the seeds, that you don't want these weeds of the poisons of the soul to sprout again, address them. And you're going to find a lot of times it does deal with that forgiveness of self is going to be part of it somewhere, or you say, oh, that was dumb, I shouldn't have done that, or whatever it is. And if there's need to, in turn, to accept and to forgive, all this other groundwork that is here, so be it. But inevitably, I promise you, when you get into this whole thing with apathy and the being jaded, there's this need to get yourself off that hook. You were human, you did the best you could for who you were then. And that knowing that life is more than just this little dark, foggy box that you can feel that you're stuck in from time to time. Crawl out of the box. And I like the spirit of the coyote spirit, who's a bit of a trickster. He's the type that if you call upon him, he teaches you to remember to laugh at yourself, to laugh at life, that there is brightness. And while he's dragging you out of your box, he'll burn it in front of you and ask you if you want some hot chocolate and some s'mores with that. So with that, my friends, just some thoughts. Again, when you find yourself in that dark, foggy place, don't beat yourself up for it. But remember, this is a flare that's coming from your mind and from your spirit. Don't allow yourself to stay there either. Life, it's big, it's beautiful, it's bright. And it's waiting for you when you're ready to approach it at your pace. So I appreciate all of you. I am so excited. I'm very close to 500 viewers. And I can't thank all of you enough for there. So just a little bit more. And until we have the wonderful opportunity to be with each other again, may all of you walk in peace. Bright blessings. Wanishi. Until we sit with each other again.